Hello, Namibia, and welcome to TUPOPYENI. As Namibia commemorates Heroes Day this week, we pause to remember men and women who have sacrificed their lives, struggles in many cases, and gave their lives to the land of the brave. But tonight, we pose a very difficult question. What happens when a people win political freedom, but the struggle for economic freedom continues? Our heroes fought against a system that denied Namibians political rights, dignity, and self-determination. Today, decades after independence, many Namibians are fighting a different battle. The battle for a job, the battle for a home, the battle for land, the battle to start a business, the battle to feed a family, the battle to give a child a better life than the one their parents had. So, we simply move from one struggle to another. Or is economic independence actually the unfinished chapter of the same struggle? I'm your host, Leslie Shiweda, today standing in for Josie Ngipandwa, and we've got our guest here that I'm going to introduce to you, starting obviously on my immediate right, Dr. Eunice Gonzo, who's a psychologist here this evening. Good evening.
Good evening, and good evening to our viewers.
Well, thank you so much. And also, we've got Mr. Tyitende, who's a political analyst. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good. Your surname or sometimes throws me off the rails, yet you are a Bucht through and through, you say?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. So those are the guests that I will be dissecting this show with tonight. We also had invited an economist to be able to come and look at the economic part, but obviously we'll be touching on it just on the surface because we're not really that qualified to go a little bit deeper in. But maybe let's get into it. One sentence. Or what is the one sentence that you would describe Namibia's journey from political liberation to economic independence? Let's start with Doctor.
Well, I would say that, right, in one sentence, I think it's successful political liberation. However, a struggling, not inclusive economic road so far.
Okay. Rio?
Well, the transition from political to economic independence is still a journey that we as a Namibian society still have to navigate towards to prosperity for all, where, in the words of former President Kainkop, no Namibian should feel left out, not only rhetorically, but practically. And that, I think, it's the biggest struggle that we are going to dissect tonight.
Let's get into that. No Namibians should be left behind, but yet many Namibians are left behind. Where do you think we went wrong?
Well, it's a litany of factors to start off with. Number one, the people that fought against the yoke of colonialism, that fought against apartheid, their primary occupation or their primary enemy was the forces of oppression. So there was a common enemy that united Namibians from all communities, from all the different ethnic groups. After independence, our political leaders paved the way for institutions to be set up, various ministries, various offices, various agencies, all geared towards liberating the Namibian people, promoting the social welfare of the Namibian people. In fact, our supreme law, the Constitution, has a provision in there that states that it will be responsibility of the state to ensure that the welfare of the Namibian people is being promoted. 36 years down the line, we still see a great number of the Namibian populace languishing in poverty. Unemployment, especially amongst the youth, now stands at above 60%. We have a system where the state, despite pumping a lot of money into education, into the businesses that is supposed to rescue ordinary Namibians from the doldrums of poverty, that has not materialized. the question is, what has happened? Is it wrong policies? Is it leadership that is not taking us where we ought to be? And I think, again, it's a very complicated thing to tackle, especially looking at where we are coming from, what has been done. But the first thing that you need to ask yourself is, what has happened since 21 March 1990? People just emerged from a brutal past. People died. People lost their lives. So I think the first crop of leaders that took power, they were more concerned about uniting Namibians. The primary objective of liberating Namibians economically was not a primary consideration. I'm not saying it was not a consideration. It was not a primary consideration. But as the years went by, the population increased. The policies towards intentionally targeting the most vulnerable in society was somehow an afterthought. And I think that's where we primarily went wrong.
Doctor, he's talking about that maybe that economic liberation was not the primary sort of like focus of those leaders that took power at 1990. But obviously, one would like to think that that has to go hand in hand: political freedom and then and also economic freedom. What psychological impact could have gone through the minds of those that were having the power that may be to try and make sure that that transition takes place?
You see, what is very important, and I actually really like the way it was explained. The biggest problem is that when we got our freedom, the question is, did we decolonize the mind? Now, when I'm speaking about decolonizing the mind, is that there were certain mind shifts that needed to change to bring, after now that you've got the liberation, there's a certain mindset that is needed, not a mindset of the expectation that what people had. Because remember, when we're doing, especially when we are doing political campaigns, there's a lot of promises that we give. Now, sometimes these promises actually give a wrong expectation, meaning a different types of mindset. And it's a mindset of saying that, right, either it's an entitlement, that it means that this country owes me this. So when we got the liberation struggle, it is their duty for them to provide a job for me. It's not what can I do for this country to help it achieve economic freedom, but more a thing of what is it that the country should do for me to do what? To achieve economic freedom. Now the other problem that we had is also, what are the narratives? Meaning, what is it that we are feeding the generation's mind when it comes to when we have our political agendas, our manuscripts, and what we are telling the society. So it becomes a whole mental, like it kind of becomes almost what we can call a mental apathy. Where a lot of people, what they are waiting is that everyone thought that, okay, we won, we fought this battle. It means now we must get these houses. We must get the land. With our heroes. So
that is where you're saying that the mind shift sort of like change was not properly introduced.
Yes, it's not even totally instituted. You understand? So, and you find it out at sometimes the outcry of some of our youth. You'll also find it in the way, like the growth. It's basically in what we are supposed to institute is the growth mindset. Now, we inherited a system from during the apartheid regime.
The apartheid system, yes.
Now, it meant that, right, even as a generation, our parents and so on, what was supposed to happen is that we were now supposed to bring back a different foundation. You understand? Because I like the Bible verse that says, if the foundations be broken, what can the righteous do? It means rebuild the foundation. So what we are supposed to do is to rebuild a foundation that is integrated, including in our school system, that actually encourages what we call a growth mindset. A mindset, even we speak a lot about entrepreneurship and so on, but all that, if you can remember, over the past years, we had a problem where people did not have entrepreneurs anymore, but they had tenderpreneurs, which became a whole issue of getting money quickly. All that is basically entrenched in your mindset, how you think about things, how you look at life. And that is fundamentally the biggest problem, that as a country, we have not really sat down and totally invested in every program that we are doing, the whole mind transformation, because we are actually stuck with a certain mindset that is still more of a colonized mindset, that is like, my country must give for me. And not what can
because I fought, or
my fathers fought for this.
Are you in agreement with that?
No, absolutely. I concur with most of the sentiments that have been expressed. If you look at the mindset or the collective imagination of our political elite, to a large extent, they want to be compensated and overcompensated for their contribution towards the liberation struggle. And some of these contributions are real, and others are imagined. In other words, they did not really participate. It's just because somewhere where they resided, a bullet happened to pass through their village, and then they say, yes, I should be recognized as a veteran as well. I'm entitled to the benefits. And one thing that we don't talk about a lot is that the founding president, may he rest in peace, he was against compensating people that participated in the liberation struggle because he believed people participated voluntarily, not to be compensated. And then came President Pohamba. It's under his leadership that the Ministry of Veteran Affairs was formed. So now, every month, veterans are entitled to perks. My uncle is a beneficiary of that as well. Some people are applying every month, every day to be recognized as veterans. Some are declined for obvious reasons. People give frivolous reasons that they carried water on their soldiers.
Do you think that that is a loophole that has been exploited?
It has been exploited, absolutely. And the question is, at whose cost? It's us, taxpayers. Those funds could have gone to education, it could have gone to agriculture, it could have gone to SMEs that you just spoke about. So we have created this whole image around people that have contributed towards the liberation struggle. And the sad part of it all is that we only focus on the second part of the liberation struggle, which only started in 1966. We hardly talk about what transpired between 1904 and 1908, the first war of national resistance fought by the Wairero and the Nama communities. In fact, when we talk about the past conferment of heroes, there's a legal statute that governs that. It only focuses what transpired from 1966 to 1989. So some communities struggle count for less than others, and that's because of the corridors of power that decide who gets to be a hero and who is not.
You're reminding me of that book from George Orwell, some animals are more equal than others. Let's move on to something else, which is the current youth right now. They're really struggling because he's just mentioned that unemployment rate sitting at 60% and above. That in itself will create problems. So what do the people have to do to be able to try and make sure that they get resources or access to information for these resources for them to be able to, like I mentioned in my introduction, feed a family, start a business, just get something moving for yourself to be able to be on your feet?
Yeah, the issue of, because if you look at even our population pyramid, actually our population is really made up of the youth.
Yep.
And if you understand the whole liberation struggle, it was basically based on ensuring that the youth today have they got the freedom, and they are in a lot of they are basically empowered to do certain things, to get, even up until now, we even have what the president have declared this year, that we've got the youth now can go to the universities without necessarily, and the government is actually subsidizing it. Also, if you look at even with the education system, so in terms of policies and a lot of things that has been done, there's actually a lot that has been done over the years, as you will agree on. The problem, again, it's coming back with looking at winning national liberation and obtaining freedom for your people, and then instilling the values within the current generation as to how to go about doing that. And that one starts from home. Now it becomes very problematic because the youth, because of our roots, meaning we are socialized into a system. Now, the system that is socializing the youth today, this is a system of people who are part of even the liberation struggle. So all these frustrations, a lot of what they were expecting that did not come to pass, a lot of the dialogues going around, that is what the child is feeding, and that makes up the child's foundation. And this is why you find, as parents are in a survival mode, the youth also have come about to be in that survival mode. So the narrative has become, it is now widespread. Everyone is feeling the unfairness of what is happening. So, but again, we are going to go back to what? If we can start by entrenching values of looking, of not looking in a box, but being able to look outside of the box, and to be able to give our children that value system of saying that, okay, before we had political freedom, how did our parents survive in the past? How did we do that? So I like what we are talking about, that at times when we sell the story that you have to be compensated for everything. This is why we've got a nation where at times we've got people who are accumulating qualifications and doing absolutely nothing with the qualifications.
With those qualifications.
You understand? With the empowerment, we have forgotten, what this was all about. Because it's not just about this generation. It's for the generation that is coming. So
but also, Dr. Gonzo, before you go any further or far away from it, you're speaking about the importance of instilling those disciplines or those values from early on and starting from home. But if we take the capital city, Windhoek, for example, it is almost very possible to be able to get access to alcohol after every 500 meters or so. And it's almost impossible to be able to get bread, let's say after 8 o'clock. Because remember what Ree was saying, that some people are treated differently than others. But also, it's the same applies when alcohol in this country is being sold. As an example that we're drawing up is that there has to be a license. This license has to be able to regulate the hours. Now, as a parent, if you're trying to instill these values of do not drink alcohol, do not do these, and the moment that your child steps just right outside the boundaries of your yard, there's alcohol readily available. How easy or difficult is it for parents or those now generation parents that are raising their kids to try and make sure that they sort of like balance those two?
You see, and this is why, again, remember I touched on tenderpreneurs instead of entrepreneurs. You see, again, like we were talking about the political situation, a lot of people, their expectations was that, okay, so we get freedom. When we get freedom, also we are going to be economically empowered. So we are going to have the money. Money will be there. So these two things were not aligned. Now, a lot of people then started doing what? Looking for quick money, quick cash. Now, the fastest way that people learned how to make money very fast is to do what? Is to have shebeens. Now, it becomes, what I'm basically saying here is that, right, it's basically painting, because I'm a firm believer that awareness is the first step to cure. So you find that, right, the culture, which is the way we do things, has always been to look for a quick fix to the problem. Either the government, it's like I said, it becomes either the government must give you the job and you aren't creating the job, or you are looking for what can I sell or what can I do that is very fast. And that is what I'm saying, that as as parents, we need to change that, because a child is socialized from home. So the past, what we are supposed to do with the past, even celebrating the heroes today, it is basically bringing back, even when we brought back the remains, is giving back that national identity, is to remind the people that these are people who had resilience, people who fought, and also to have the inclusive narrative, so that no one must feel behind. Because the only way we won independence is because we were united.
As a
and
collective.
that is what our ancestors and our grandfathers and the founding fathers, that is what they stood in, is in the collective. And that's why we always used to chant, united we stand, divided we fall. So, and if all of us as Namibian can actually see it as a national cry, and can start having programs that we have inclusivity, where people don't think that it's only one tribe that is actually gaining from this, where people don't think that, right, some people are more privileged than others. Namibia is a country rich in minerals, and there's quite a lot of opportunity for everyone. But the question is, what is it that we are saying? Because what we say becomes. And that is why we've got this. So we've got shebeens all over. It is true. I'm a child born in Katutura, and I grew up in Katutura. So I had to study when I could hear shebeens just around me. But how many of us would tell that to our children, to say that we need to endure? Because that is what the history has taught us, that in endurance, we will eventually be successful. So, yes, there are a lot of things that sometimes might not have been done, but I think why we are having these conversations is for us to say, what can we do in order to engrave and actually make sure that people have a shift in their mindset, and for them to start looking at, how do I, if I'm a master's holder, how do I create jobs? You know? Because how do you become a master's holder? PhD holders, all these things, but what are you bringing to the country?
And you're still looking for a job.
And you're looking for a job.
She's mentioning that awareness is the first step to cure. Do you feel like our nation and our people, the populace, is very made well aware of things around them?
Well, if you look at the young people today, I'm more concerned about the young people, because they constitute 71% of the population from the age of 0 to 35. And you ask the obvious question, what does the future look like for them? Just the Ministry of Health just recently told us that between 2023 and 2024, there were 542 people that committed suicide. There were 2,137 attempts. And out of that figure, 60% were by young Namibian men. So the obvious question becomes, in a small population like ours, why is that happening? The first thing, I believe, is the unemployment rate, especially amongst young Namibians. Not only the graduates, also school leavers. And people were told that if you go to university, you get your degree, there will be milk and honey for you. The sad reality is that even people with master's degrees and even PhDs are now struggling to find employment. What's the whole irony of this is that you will find a young person that has studied entrepreneurship or business administration, and then they protest that they want a job. And entrepreneurship teaches you how to create your own company, how to create your own job. But we need to take the discussion further than that. What are the obstacles that hinder young people from establishing businesses, to access finance, the entire ecosystem that exists to support them, access to procurement contracts, access to markets, access to grow and expand beyond the borders of Namibia? We hardly have that conversation. In fact, if you look at the existing policies, regulations, and legal instruments that are in existence, they actually don't ask the question, how can we assist these young women or these young men to prosper? They actually indirectly ask the question, how can we frustrate them? I'll give you an example.
Okay.
You go to a local bank, you say you want to set up a bakery. They will ask you $1 million question. They will ask you, you say, for instance, I need 300,000 to set up this bakery in Okonjatu, in Kongola, or in Wakanas.
Okay.
They will ask you, well, you need collateral. Okay, how much is the collateral? No, the collateral is 10% of the amount that you are requesting. So for this young person that does not even have $1,000 in their bank account,
now they need to come up with the collateral.
They need to come up with the collateral, you know. And what is also interesting, or actually problematic to me, is that most of the people that work in these financial institutions that are in charge of making these life-changing decisions that affect young people, they've never sold a lollipop or ice or a loaf of bread, but they are making business decisions of a business person that is striving to create jobs.
I know that I've actually had this conversation, but every time when you speak to them, and even some of them come from the places that you're talking about, Ohanas, or Kongola, or Konjatu, they will tell you that the institutions themselves have been designed that they have to minimize the risks at all costs.
Absolutely. No, she spoke about decolonizing the mind previously. And the people that are in charge of making these institutions at banks, sometimes even in government, their mindset is to follow a textbook approach to a situation that is divorced from their world. So it's not possible. Now you are asking this young person to bring collateral. They're asking for a business plan. And we tend to equate the proficiency in English as a form of intelligence.
Also.
A person is unable to bring a business plan. But if you interview this person, even in their local vernacular, they'll be able to explain to you exactly what it is that they want to do. But now you are forcing this person, no, bring a business plan, bring a cash flow projection, bring your annual financial statements, and a litany of other documents, because this is what they have been told at the bank or the financial institution. Ask for the following documents. If the person does not have these documents, decline the application. Now, I know a lot of young people that come from rural communities with no form of formal education, but they are prospering. What we need to do as society, we need to go a step further and ask ourselves, how can we assist these people and do away with all of these bureaucratic and structural bottlenecks that impede the young person to really run a business? They don't need a degree to run a business. In fact, most prominent business people around the world, they dropped out of university, they dropped out of high school.
Some of
they
the most
now
prominent
employ
ones here.
people with PhDs and master's degrees working for them. We have been so colonized that for you to become a business person, you need to wear a suit, you need to be in an urban setting, but the rural economy is where the real money is.
Where the real money
Unfortunately, we don't think like that.
Really, let me hold you right there. I think these words goes down to those that have to make decisions, especially in financial institutions, that please do away with the plethora of tactics that is always put up as roadblocks in front of the young people. But while we continue this conversation, we took to the streets to hear what young Namibians and members of the public had to say about this issue. Let's take a listen.
In my opinion, I don't think we are that free economically. First thing, let's start with the job market. Because on my side, I feel like, to the course that I'm studying land administration. I feel like, am I gonna get a job after this, or just end up being in the streets by just looking at the job market?
Based on what I feel like, it's basically we are free. We are just having the same struggles as every other country that has a mixed economy.
I see it's free for us as the government implemented this new system for us university students, just to break the barriers of how our predecessors didn't get a chance to do. So it's like a great opportunity for us to push further for our country.
Me as a Namibian, I don't feel like we are free, because we don't get benefits that we have to get. So economically, I wouldn't say that we are free. You just say that we are somewhere there in between.
No, economically we are not free, because most factors depend, our future depends on most factors economically.
So like economically, when we look at the future, I don't really feel free, like just as the forefathers did, to give us the freedom that we're supposed to feel. But I don't feel it because, like, from my field, the future that I see, especially for the job hunting part, it's not really promising because there's a lot of having to go through connections just to get a job these days.
As a Namibian youth, we are accorded opportunity now to partake in economical sectors where our parents during the time of liberations were not allowed to participate. But however, I cannot say we are fully economically independent.
Like honestly, if like you compare our freedom to how like people are living maybe in America there, like you can't even compare us to them because like here you can walk freely. Like here people like can say whatever they want, do whatever they want. But yeah, I feel very free.
But if you have to look at countries like the European countries in America, they also have mixed economies. They have and they have larger economies than our country, but they still battle with unemployment and inflation. These are the type of things that people do not like in an economy, and they feel like maybe they might not be free, but it's inherent.
You have it from the young men and women on the streets of Windhoek as to what they think of Dr. Gonzo. I want to come to you. One of them they is saying that I'm studying, but my biggest concern is that will I be able to get a job? What does that do to a person when your future is uncertain?
You see, that's a problem because when your future is uncertain, and that's why you find a lot of the young people said, I'm politically free, but I'm not economically free, which means that for them, for most young people, what economic freedom means is that the ability to find a job, because this is what has been entrenched with them as you have been growing up. Like the family is going to sacrifice everything that they need to sacrifice to take you to school because you must be able to come back and you support the family to take them out of poverty. Now, that is the reality of most of the young people. So even coming to Windhoek is to study, to go back, to be able to do something profound. Now, that uncertainty, what it brings to them is a survival mode. So the mentality is that one of surviving. Now, this one brings on, it means the person is focused on instant gratification, like on being able to get this money. They are not able to really make long-term plans. And that uncertainty brings a lot of anxiety within them. So you find one of the biggest problems we've got in the country, we've got an increase in both depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms. You touch on the high suicide rate. This is why you find that, unfortunately, depression comes with what? Suicidal ideation. Another big problem that we've got in the country, you've also touched on it, is the alcohol and the drug abuse. So you find that at times people who eventually commit suicide, most of them are also intoxicated, which makes it easier for them to take that final step. But all this comes back to what? We are dealing with a nation that a lot of the young people who are, like what we spoke about, it make up the bulk of our population, are actually living in a world where they are totally uncertain of the future. The future is dark. The future is not promising. So, and that creates a lot of stress within them, which has increased mental disorders within this country. In fact, one of the biggest problems right now we have in the country is more an issue of mental issues. It's more mental problems than even physical ailment. So these are things that shows us that it is because, and it has even been attributed in some of our print media, that the biggest problem that people are experiencing right now is financial stress. Mm-hmm. It is really difficult not to know what to eat the next day, or your house being repossessed because you have lost a job, and this is the reality that the children are growing in, which stunts their dreaming. Although the dreaming is there, but it's actually stunted because everyone is now operating on the here and then. There's no real savings to that.
Or thinking about the future.
Or the future, which exacerbate an already very bad situation.
Rui, imagine living in the now and never ever being able to plan for the future. I know that probably our economist, if he was here, probably would have taken this question, but I'll pose it to you anyway. We've just gone through it, but there's economically, do we as a nation have enough resources to be able to find a redress solution to this?
Well, Namibia is a rich country with a lot of poor people. Out of 3.1 million people, we have 1.4 million people living in poverty. But if you look at the various sectors of our economy, starting with agriculture, there is the potential to create a lot of jobs, especially for the young, because it's so labor intensive. Now, we're talking about Heroes Day, right? We also know that the political leaders that fought and literally died for this country wanted to see a Namibia that is inclusive, that has prosperity for majority of its citizens. Now, before independence, the apartheid government, in terms of agriculture, there were 7 green schemes. Today, we have 11, and a majority of them are not producing to their full potential to absorb all of these young people, especially the ones that have studied agriculture or horticulture. What we have seen is that state policy or government policy has pivoted more towards the extractive industry. She spoke about the tenderpreneurs or people wanting instant gratification. And that's because we have somehow, we have this culture in Namibia of conspicuous consumption. You know, buying a nice car, making noise in the streets, not working hard, you know. And if you look at the mineral economy, the value addition that we have been preaching about for the past 36 years, it has not happened yet. And that is also an industry that has the potential to create jobs, because we know it's very capital intensive, it's more about technology, but we are able to also add value addition in that specific industry and create local jobs instead of taking the resources and exporting them in raw form. Just one example, if you look at the wood, the rosewood that comes from the Kavango East and the Kavango West, we are exporting it to China. Namibia doesn't even produce toothpicks. But we have our brothers from the Kavango East and the Kavango West region, just here at Arabush, at the service station, producing furniture. But we import furniture, chairs for young people across the country. If there was a deliberate policy to say we are no longer going to import furniture, all of that furniture will be produced locally, no raw wood will be exported, we are going to do value addition here. It's just one example of what can be done. It's possible. The young graduates in nursing, we have our people being treated under trees, you know, in areas where access to government services, primary health care, it's a dream to access it. Some people die while trying to access health care. Why don't we recruit these young nurses, set up mobile primary health care systems for them? We can assist government.
It's very interesting that you're mentioning it now. Nostalgic memories are coming back in my mind, because I remember the first time I came to see the city, I was 7 years old. And for the first 7 years of my life, I was living somewhere in the Gramadulas, but my polio drops came to me, and all my injections came to me, even though we had to run away and be caught. For some reason, we thought that it would be the end of our lives. But continue.
In a nutshell, I think before independence, the political leadership were really passionate about liberating the people. But the struggle did not end on the 21st of March 1990.
That's when
It has evolved. It has evolved from law to systems. It has evolved from segregation to economic exclusion. It has evolved to a point where if you are not close to the corridors of power, then you will be discussed somewhere to get the crumbs that will be falling from the table. That's an unfortunate and sad part of our current society. And until we deal with those serious questions of what it is that we want to happen in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 50 years, what should Namibia look like, the ideal society that we envision? But for the most part, the people that are making the decisions on our behalf, as biology would have, they will not be around.
Yeah, it's strange that you're saying as biology or science would probably put it, it's by the year 2060 something, many of our leaders would not be there. So one would like to think for them to really make cautious decisions for future generations. But we are also here also celebrating Heroes Day and it's Heroes Month. Should most of our heroes that are still alive come to the table and speak to Namibians and also hear some of these cries out here? What solutions do you think that they should come to?
I think that what I think also is very important for us to point out is that I think all our heroes and those whose blood waters our freedom, right from the start, when this battle was being fought, it was for us to gain political freedom, which we actually all got. So, and I think that with every country, like, okay, obviously some of the young people speaking, you can also tell that not all of them are exposed, because it's another problem that not a lot of young people are exposed, is that nation building was never an easy process, you know. So, but what is important is that if we continuously do not understand the psychology behind change, because what we want to do is that, right, we want to change the person, because the whole point was to make a Namibia for the future, for our generation to come, you know. So it is said if our heroes would have to sit and ask the same youth and ask them, do you see a future for you? Do you think the future belongs to you? It would be said if they say that we no longer see it, because what we are doing is that, right, we are surviving. We don't think that this was for us, but this, we don't know. It was maybe for us to get liberation, but we never feel that we got that economic freedom. So what is it that we need to do? I like when you touch on, especially the processes. I think at times, let us not copy and paste processes or laws, which are different with different economic situation or experiences. What we should do is to understand, like in psychology, usually when we are doing testing, we always say that to get the right result, the test must be standardized, you know, to what? To the Namibian population.
Contextualized.
It has to be contextualized. So if we don't contextualize our own laws, because I think that is fundamentally also one of the biggest problems. So we've got all these constitutional, like legal laws and so on, but most of these processes, right, with policies formation and everything, and turnaround strategies and a lot of things that we have done in this world, still up until now, we are still fighting the same processes. So isn't it about time for us to see that these processes aren't yielding what we actually thought that they should? Is it not a matter of time that we put our collective knowledge together, bring different people in different setups, and try to check this wheel, to say that maybe this wheel needs a bit of little fixing, and not to say that, but it has been working all this time.
Or maybe the bearing has started to crank a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that is fundamentally what is important. Let us change the narrative of saying that basically for you to understand the psychology of money. Because for the average young person, the psychology of money is related to status. So money has become the window for you to what? To get that status. And this is why you find that the first time you get a tender, then the next moment you are driving around in a Range Rover. So it is always...
Already living beyond your means.
You understand? So at times we are also sitting here and asking, because there was one wise advice I gotten when I was a child, and I gotten it from even my own mother, who said, money is not how much you are making, it's what you do with it. You understand, right? So you find that, right, if we can change that mindset about lifestyle, and we change our lifestyle to fit into where, in the positions that we are right now. Yes, food prices has gone up, fuel has gone up. Let us now change, because everything starts what? In the mind. What you think, you are. You understand? So if we have any of these processes, like we got all these, is it now the loans? We got loans. You find someone already does not have money, but you don't actually teach them that if you get this, if we are going to do debt consolidation, let us find out, is the person suffering from a debt, a gambling addiction? Is there other problems? Are we not? We have to have projects. So if I'm going to give you a loan, then it must be my responsibility to ensure that you are going to be educated in how to use it. If I'm going to have to do the entrepreneurs, how many of these beautiful like what we want to give all these things to also the young people, but do we have actually processes in it to say that, you know what, right, we are going to ensure that you will succeed? Or are we just doing face? We want to show the world that we can do something.
Yeah, we have a caller, our first caller on the line. Very interesting conversation we're having. We've got Pastor Kambatuku from Grootfontein. Evening, Pastor, what is your contribution? Pastor?
Good evening. My contribution is very simple and very clear. It's Master Kambatuku, not Pastor.
Oh.
Master Kambatuku.
Master Kambatuku. Beg your pardon.
Yes. I hope every Namibian is well, and today, as we're celebrating the lives of those that lost their lives because of... Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please continue. Okay, sorry, Mr. Kambatuku, it seems like we have lost you there. We'll try and get you back. But Ria, I also wanted to get back to you and also couple to what or Doctor is saying about educating people. You've spoken about a very important factor that needs to really be taken into consideration, that of concerted efforts, concerted, deliberate effort. I think that has to be the word that I have to use, where you were saying that why don't policies have to be deliberate? Because in our first section, you've also mentioned that deliberate efforts were made to try and bring in war veterans to be able to get resources and to try and make sure that they do not live in abject poverty. Policies should also be made to be able to make sure that those people that are dealing with timber, those people that are busy building, those people that are wanting to go into craftsmanship of be it copper wires or whatever, because we've got the resources that, like we're saying, get to be educated. She's come to education now to be able to turn our raw materials into finished product so that employment can be created. Yeah, touch on that again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, look, it's not to say that government has not done anything. Government has done a lot since independence. I mean, if you look at the institutions like the creation of the Development Bank of Namibia, with a clear orientation of empowering previously disadvantaged Namibians, black Namibians, you know, to go into business. They now even have a program for women, for example. So you can see there's a concerted effort. But my concern is that the orientation of these efforts, of this policy, intentions are so Eurocentric. They are so Western. It's like a textbook approach trying to solve problems of a country that has a lot of cultural intricacies, you know, different values of how we do certain things. Access to capital, therefore, should be contextualized that speaks to the Namibian condition. You cannot ask a young person from Aus or from Oalushu to bring collateral, give a business plan, to talk to the person, for example, get their opinion and hear what they have to say. Do they understand the business that they want to run? You will get a real sense of whether this person actually understands what they are doing. You can ask this person, go and get a business plan. They'll pay someone $1,500 to $2,000, but they don't understand a single sentence in that entire business plan, you know. So if you look at the various institutions that exist, not only in government, but also in the private sector, they are all speaking the same language, the development language, but the rhetoric is divorced from the practicalities of young people, what they experience on a daily basis. And one thing that I actually want to bring up that I think we have not touched up is that young people, because of the opportunities that they cannot find, they are now looking up to criminals as role models, rhino poachers, scammers,
the easy money way.
The easy money way, you know, because they idolize these people because they are able to go into a club or a pub and spend on women, spend on drinks, and that's what they emulate.
It looks like our time is doing its trick on us. I think we are at that point where we are touching on our final words as we are celebrating this Heroes Day and what people have to do to try and be of a sound mind as we are continuing our fight towards economic freedom.
I think as we celebrate this, I think let us use the Heroes Day as a day for us to actually do some introspection. This is what they gave us. This is what people have sacrificed. We have people who for 52 years were not even buried in their own country because they fought for a vision that we got today, you know. It is because of them that we are on TV right now and we are talking, because in the past we never had such opportunities. So the question is that what is it that we are doing with what they gave us? You see, their battle was it's from that time to a certain time. They gave us the liberation. They gave us the freedom. Our job is now to take up where they left off and then to see that, like I said, the country has done so much, because as a child, and I was part of the liberation fight, we never thought that I could speak. There was a time we were fighting to speak English because we did not want to speak Afrikaans. Today, I'm sitting here, I'm fluent, and I'm able to speak in English, which means that, right, that fought has borne, the fruits are there. Our children are actually reaping it. But it should not be only about an entitled few. I think what we should start looking at is to make sure that every Namibian child, because when the freedom was being fought, it was not for one, it was for everyone, whether you are Vambu, whether you are Damara, whether you are Nama, whatever, anyone, Afrikaner, as long as you are a Namibian, it is about the collective. So where the other is struggling, I think let this be the time to say that we are going to do this for you.
All right. It's unbelievable. It's like I've never seen an hour go by so quickly. But Tyitende and Dr. Eunice Gonzo, thank you so much for dissecting this very interesting topic with me. And I think for you at home, the baton, like the doctor is saying, has already been passed. Let's try and make sure that as a collective we move forward. I think I'm a man of quotes, and one that I've taken away from doctor is that money is just not how much you have, it's what you do with it. And with that, happy Heroes Day, and bye-bye.